The drama surrounding Caitlin Clark has spiraled into something far bigger than basketball. What started as a promising new era for the WNBA has unraveled into a sobering lesson about value, power, and how one player's absence can expose the cracks beneath an entire league. What was supposed to be a celebration of women's basketball, the WNBA playoffs, the pinnacle of the season, has turned into an echo chamber of empty seats, discounted tickets, and unanswered questions. And at the center of it all is Caitlin Clark, the player who lifted an entire sport onto her shoulders, only for that same sport to stumble the moment she stepped away. Across social media, fans are posting videos of half-empty arenas and desperate ticket promotions. Teams are offering free car washes and tire changes just to get people through the doors. It's surreal. Playoff basketball, the crown jewel of any league, is now selling for as little as $6, a number that almost feels insulting in its absurdity. $6 for a postseason ticket. That's not a typo or a flash sale gimmick. That's cheaper than a Chipotle burrito. Cheaper than parking outside the arena. Cheaper than 2 lattes at Starbucks. For $6, you can walk into what's supposed to be the grand stage of women's basketball, the culmination of months of work and sacrifice. But instead of the roar of a packed house, fans are greeted with the hollow sound of an empty arena. It's not just a coincidence. It's not just bad timing. It's the Caitlin Clark effect, or rather the absence of it. When she was on the court, the Indiana Fever were the hottest ticket in basketball, men's or women's. Her games weren't just sporting events. They were cultural moments. People flew across the country to see her in person. They paid thousands for courtside seats just to watch her drain logo threes and throw no-look passes that belonged on highlight reels. She brought electricity to a league that had been fighting for mainstream recognition for decades. And now, with her sidelined, that electricity has vanished. The WNBA higher-ups are panicking, and for good reason. They're worried about the numbers, ticket sales, TV ratings, sponsorship deals, all of it. Because when Caitlin Clark isn't playing, those numbers nosedive. The league's regular season ratings have dropped by more than 55% since her injury. That's not a small dip. That's a freefall. Without her on the floor, the buzz dies. The media coverage fades and fans tune out. The truth is as uncomfortable as it is undeniable. Caitlin Clark isn't just part of the league. She is the league. Before Clark went down, the Indiana Fever were printing money. They were breaking attendance records, selling out arenas that had never even come close to capacity. They outdrew multiple NBA teams in their own state. Opponents were moving games into bigger arenas just to accommodate the demand. The Washington Mystics left their 4,200-seat gym for a 14,000-seat NBA arena just to host Clark and the Fever. The Chicago Sky did the same, relocating their matchup to the United Center and pulling in over 20,000 fans. It was unprecedented. One player had single-handedly transformed the WNBA's identity from niche to national. Now, those same tickets are worth pocket change. Playoff seats that once sold for hundreds are being listed for the price of a sandwich. Lower bowl seats that used to cost more than an NBA ticket are sitting unsold at $30 or $40. Courtside? $200. That's less than what you'd pay for a high school state championship game. The fall from grace is staggering, and it's not just financial, it's symbolic. The league's brightest moment has become a reminder of just how fragile its success really was. When Clark officially announced she'd miss the rest of the season with a groin injury, the news hit like a gut punch. September 4th, a date that should have marked the start of the WNBA's most exciting playoff stretch, instead became the day the lights dimmed on what had been a historic year. For Indiana, it was especially cruel. The Fever were set to host their first postseason home game since 2016. The energy should have been electric. Instead, it was muted. You could hear the difference. Empty seats don't cheer. They whisper regret. And those whispers are echoing through the entire league. This isn't just an Indiana problem. This is a league-wide reckoning. For months, players and analysts have tried to push back against the idea that the WNBA revolves around Caitlin Clark. They insist the league is about more than one player, that there are other stars deserving of the spotlight. And that's true. Aja Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Alyssa Thomas, and others are phenomenal athletes. But the market doesn't lie. The fans have made their choice. The empty seats are the verdict. You can't manufacture star power, and you can't lecture people into caring. Clark isn't just another player, she's a movement. And when that movement stops, everything around it stops too. The league should have seen this coming. When one player's presence drives 1.8 million viewers for a single playoff game, more than all other games that day combined, it's not just a statistical anomaly. It's a warning sign. It's proof that your business model has become dangerously dependent on one person. Yet instead of protecting her, instead of making sure she had the support and safety her talent warranted, the WNBA let her get battered night after night. Hard fouls, cheap shots, referees swallowing their whistles. The message was clear. The league's brightest star would have to fend for herself. And now the result is playing out in real time, on empty courts, in discounted ticket prices, and in declining viewership graphs. Even the All-Star game, the supposed crown jewel of the season, couldn't escape the ripple effect. Clark's injury kept her out of the event, and viewership dropped by 36%. Imagine buying a ticket to a Beyoncé concert only to find out she canceled. Sure, the backup acts might be talented, but let's be honest, you're not staying. That's what's happening here. Fans aren't turning their backs on women's basketball. They're turning away from a league that hasn't figured out how to sustain success beyond one superstar. And the economic implications go deeper than most realize. This was supposed to be the WNBA's victory lap. The league was negotiating a new media rights deal worth over $2 billion. Expansion teams were being planned. Corporate sponsors were circling. The Fever's surge in popularity had convinced everyone that the WNBA had finally broken through the cultural wall that had held it back for decades. But now that illusion has been shattered. One player's injury shouldn't be enough to derail an entire postseason. Yet here we are, playoff tickets cheaper than a movie ticket, TV numbers collapsing, and executives scrambling to spin the narrative. The truth is, the WNBA's golden age wasn't built on solid ground. It was built on Caitlin Clark's back. And when she went down, the foundation started to crumble. For a league that's been fighting for relevance since its inception, that's a dangerous place to be. Because if your success depends entirely on the health and presence of one player, then you don't have a sustainable league. You have a show. And the star of that show has just left the stage. There's also an emotional toll to this story that statistics can't measure. Clark isn't just a scorer or a highlight reel. She's a symbol of what the WNBA could be at its best. Dynamic, marketable, and globally relevant. She's the bridge between generations of fans, the first player in decades to make casual sports viewers stop scrolling and start watching. Her games weren't just about basketball, they were about belief. She made people believe that women's sports could command the same passion, the same excitement, and the same cultural weight as any men's league. To see that energy evaporate so quickly is heartbreaking. It feels like a betrayal of everything she worked to build. But make no mistake, this collapse isn't her fault. It's the league's. The WNBA failed to capitalize on the momentum Clark created. They failed to protect her. And they failed to build a structure strong enough to stand without her. They had their golden goose, and they treated her like just another player. And now, the price of that mistake is written in bold across ticket sites and TV ratings. $6 playoff seats, half-empty arenas, and the harsh reality that one player's injury can cripple an entire league. Fans have noticed the hypocrisy, too. The same organizations that marketed Clark's face on every poster and jersey now struggle to mention her while she's injured. They use her image when it's time to sell tickets, but go silent when accountability comes calling. It's exploitation dressed as promotion, and audiences are smarter than that. They know who built this surge. They know who carried the WNBA into the mainstream. And they see exactly how the league has repaid her, by leaving her unprotected until her body gave out. The numbers tell a brutal story. 54 sold-out games in 2024, attendance up nearly 50%, average crowd swelling to over 9,000 per game. Every one of those figures had Caitlin Clark's fingerprints all over it. She wasn't just a statistical leader, she was the gravitational center of an entire sports ecosystem. Remove that gravity, and everything starts to drift apart, and that's exactly what's happening now. The Fever's once thriving home crowd has thinned to a fraction of what it was. Merchandise sales have slowed. National coverage has dried up. The same networks that once featured her highlights nightly now barely mention the playoffs. The league's cultural moment has flickered, and the silence is deafening. Because as much as some might want to believe otherwise, the WNBA doesn't have a bench full of Caitlin Clarks waiting to take her place.